CFL Commissioner Stewart Johnston joins us on a landmark day for the Canadian Football League. Stewart, how does it feel to not have to be asked about the broadcast rights over and over and over again, at least for 5 or 6 years?
You know what? I am looking forward to conversations that don't have to include that. However, I'm also looking forward to conversations that talk about what we're going to do over the next 6 years. So it is a big day. I'm thrilled that we're here, and I couldn't be happier with the results.
It's just a little over a year since you've taken office as commissioner, Stewart. So when did the broadcast rights negotiations really heat up?
Look, I think I mentioned even right off the bat in that introductory press conference just over a year ago that we had an incredibly strong incumbent. I'd say probably the most important partner the league's had over the last 20 years and beyond. And we want to talk to them and talk to them early. And we began those negotiations in the late summer, and they were all they were positive, and we made good progress, and we took it from there.
Did any other television network in Canada show a real legitimate interest in the broadcast rights other than Bell Media and TSN?
Well, I can tell you, we had conversations with pretty much every significant domestic and global partner, and we generated an awful lot of interest on both sides.
And then same question, similar for the streaming companies. Perhaps you just answered it there, but how many show legitimate interest in acquiring or obtaining the CFL broadcast rights?
We had multiple parties interested, names that everyone would know, and some new names on the global streaming side that came to the party and wanted to have a discussion because they liked what they saw from the CFL and they wanted to see if they could get involved. So it was a robust process for us. So we're very pleased through that, how we were able to generate interest and ultimately where we landed.
TSN, everybody knows very well. You said how key they've been for the Canadian Football League overall. So the new kid on the block, so to speak, is DAZN. What did that streaming company do to stand out above the rest in terms of being able to acquire the Saturday Night Football package?
I think right from the start, the folks at DAZN, whether it was the office here in Canada or even speaking with some of their international colleagues in London or New York, it was a united effort to say, hey, we want in, we love what's happening with the CFL, and it fits our football strategy, both here in Canada and globally. And so those conversations were just simply outstanding. And what we saw from them and what they demonstrated to us, besides a keen interest, is a global sports entertainment leader with incredible focus on distribution and technology. The stat that really astounded me is I think they've got about 4,000 employees, and I think 2,000 of them are engineers. That's how dedicated they are to the actual platform that delivers content. And with that platform and how advanced it is, it creates really, really cool storytelling techniques. And we can't wait to see them put into action.
Was DAZN the highest streaming service bidder for that Saturday Night Football package?
Just I'm not going to get into the specific mechanics or offers that we had. We're just very pleased with where we landed.
And then in terms of becoming a partner with DAZN, I spoke to DAZN Canada Vice President Deirdre Dion, and she talked about that becoming a real partnership. What does DAZN Canada specifically offer to the CFL to help grow its brand?
Well, I think for starting point is that office, they start as CFL fans. Deidre probably told you she's got roots in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So we had great conversations talking, she's telling stories about relatives wearing watermelons on their heads. That's a pretty fun way to begin a conversation with a potential new partner, especially with the global scale of DAZN. And then from there, they said, here's what we can do. Here's what we've proven we can do. And what they have proven is they can start in any given territory. They operate around the world and they can scale quickly and they can drive innovative production storytelling. And so they want to bring that experience that they've had with some of the biggest soccer leagues in the world and many other leagues. And they want to bring that to Canada, but this is going to be a Canadian production. So it's got the backbone of that international powerhouse production arm, but it is going to be Canadian fronted. And I can't wait to see them mount that. The next year is going to be so much fun pulling that together and helping them where we can, and seeing how they tell stories from the CFL.
Deidre had told me that their subscription offering, whether or not there's going to be a CFL specific subscription offering, has not yet been set. Will the league have any say in terms of what that pricing or package might look like?
Like we're not going to get into kind of business mechanics. What's happened is DAZN is seeing the CFL as an incredible value for how they want to drive their business forward. And that goes beyond the CFL. That is their business in Canada and of course now globally as well. So they're going to take their time and they're going to work through the mechanics of how all that's going to work. And at the end of the day, I think we are going to be very blessed to see what they're going to bring to the table in terms of bringing CFL stories to life.
How did you go through this process, Stuart, and determine that Saturday Night Football could become a package on its own?
Well, certainly it was multiple conversations going on at the same time at a certain point over the process, and you're trying to land on what's going to work for any given party who might be interested in partnering with the CFL. And between all of those conversations, Saturday night seemed like a perfect window to introduce a new partner. And the fact that I think, Justin, maybe you can correct me, but from my memory, this is the first time the CFL has been able to offer a consistent day and time for an entire season, even into the playoffs. So, introducing a new partner and saying it's Saturday Night Football at 7 o'clock Eastern, I think is a win for DAZN. And I think it's a win for our fans to know exactly where to go and find those games.
You would know better than me in terms of the Saturday night set time. I know that's something that you've really focused on, is wanting to have CFL fans know when the games are on, but specifically make it easy for the new fans to understand. So with respect to Saturday Night Football, 7 p.m. Eastern time, there's always going to be a game on. Will the teams go through that package evenly, or how will the CFL go through the schedule with that?
Yes, our expectation is just going to be a balanced schedule as it always is. We'll take into account all the mechanics that you do when you build a schedule. Often it's stadium availability that might guide kind of where some teams land on a given week or weekend. But in general, our expectation is it's going to be a balanced schedule as it always is.
Does TSN have any say over what games they might get for Thursday Night Football, Friday Night Football, or some of the, Sunday games and then the Monday holiday games?
The beauty is TSN has been a partner for so long. And they understand that every one of our games is outstanding. And so when they know they've been through this process with us very closely for 20 years and even beyond that. And so they understand full well that as we build our schedule, it's going to balance itself out and they're going to have an outstanding schedule Thursday, Friday, and beyond.
There were no details in the announcement, Stuart, about the United States broadcast agreement. There was a big push, obviously, for Canada and then internationally with DAZN, which I think a lot of people are excited about. The current deal with CBS Sports Network expires after the 2026 season. So what do you expect to play out on that front for 2027 and beyond?
Yeah, it's been great to have this partnership with CBS Sports Network. We've been speaking with them over the last number of weeks. We have begun the process to determine where we're going to land with our U.S. media rights, and certainly we've been talking to them, but many other parties as well. I've got to let that process play itself out. We've been very pleased with the interest that we've seen in the U.S., and we want to make sure that our games have really the right landing spot in order to drive fan interest in the US, just like we do in Canada and globally now.
Do you have a timeline in mind for the US agreement, or is it going to play out when you arrive at an agreement with a certain party?
Yeah, thank you, Justin. I don't have a specific time where I think this is a cutoff where we've got to get it done. However, I think the process has evolved enough and the conversations have been fruitful enough so far that I don't expect this to drag way into the summer. But if we continue to take interest, we'll have those conversations, and we're just going to let the process play out at its own pace.
There's a couple reports out there, Stuart, about the value for this 6-year agreement in Canada and internationally, around 500 million in total, which would break down to 83 million annually. Can you confirm those approximate numbers?
No, I'm not going to comment on any numbers. I've seen some of those reported. What I can say is that the value that the CFL and CFL, the sport, the greatest sport in the world, can offer was duly recognized. And we certainly know our incumbent knows exactly what we deliver as a media partner, and certainly DAZN and ultimately YouTube as well did it. They agreed. So we feel very good where we landed, and you watch the media industry right now. There is a lot of downward pressure on media rights, entertainment and sport. I'm very pleased to say that we bucked that trend, and we feel very good where we've gotten to.
Is it fair to say that there's a significant increase over the previous media rights deal?
I will absolutely. I can concur that there is a significant increase. I'm just not going to go further than that.
Appreciate that. What does the increase in revenue then do for the league and its growth trajectory?
Well, I think it hits on a number of fronts, right? The healthier that our clubs are, the healthier that the investment can be made into all aspects of our game, and that includes addressing a lot of stakeholders. And certainly, we know the players are going to have a share of that in 28 through our revenue growth formula. We're going to be able to see a more comfortable situation for a number of our clubs. But this is only the start, right? This is not the end line. This is a transformational step, but it's a step. But the journey is still long and in front of us. I believe this league is going to continue to grow. I think these next 6 years are just setting us up for the following 6 years. This is, we've got ambition because we know the value that the CFL has to our fans and to our stakeholders and partners, our commercial partners, is significant. So we're excited about this as a big step, but we've got a long way to go.
It's often said, Stuart, and I feel like it's become cliche that's not necessarily supported by fact that 7 of the league's 9 teams lose money or aren't profitable. Is that fact or fiction?
Like I think right now is a day of celebration. It's celebrating an outstanding media rights deal that is going to bring new fans to our game, expand the number of storytellers of our game. Sort of that's what I want to focus on today, Justin.
With regard to the broadcast rights deal, which you said is a significant increase in the revenue, do you think it's realistic that you can look at all 9 franchises and perhaps during your tenure become profitable?
You're asking the same question twice. I'll give you the same answer. I think that this is a great step. We are taking a step as a league, and we are being recognized where we always should have been, but we are being recognized today as an elite sports property in Canada and a growth property globally. Those things will pay dividends in the short term, but I think very much so in the long term.
If expansion were to happen, does TSN retain rights to the added games per week, or how would that work in the new 6-year broadcast window?
Well, Justin, you and I have had several conversations over the last 13 months, and I've had many other media hits as well, maybe 150 of them or so. And I thank you because I'm now still batting 1,000 on expansion questions for every conversation you and I have had and others. But it's important, and the reason I keep getting asked about expansion is because our fans are passionate about it. The league is passionate about it. We know a 10th Canadian team would be such a great addition to our roster. We also know how challenging it is to get there. Having said that, as we had these discussions with our partners, they're excited. They see the direction we're headed. They want to get on board, and they have in a significant way. And so we did talk about those potentials. I'm not going to get into the mechanics of that, but certainly it was well discussed because of the excitement that's in and around the direction of the league.
There seems to be a lot of excitement surrounding Quebec City in particular, and Laval Rouge president Jacques Tanguay said he would be the most ardent supporter of a CFL franchise in Quebec City. So has the league made progress towards a possible expansion team in the Quebec capital?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on any specific files. We've been so pleased with the inbound interest in expansion across the country, multiple locations, and then also from some very interesting individuals who didn't come with a market in mind, but they wanted to talk to us about just how to get involved with the league. So multiple conversations going on related to various locations, and if I have something to update, I will do so at the right time.
When it comes to the YouTube piece of the broadcast rights agreement, Stuart, can you break it down further for fans to understand? Because I think it's easy to look at TSN and understand what they're going to do. DAZN has a Saturday night football package, but how does YouTube in detail fit in?
Right. So really, if you look at it, our live game partners are focused on Bell Media and DAZN. Um, we named YouTube a premier partner, a premier platform, I should say, and with that comes some additional rights that other platforms won't have. They do include access to a few live events, which includes preseason games. It includes some live content from our combine. And it includes some exclusive behind the scenes documentary access, which I think is going to be outstanding. And then we have put together the framework for how we want to bring creators into the fold of the CFL in a much greater way than we've seen in the past. And so some of those plans are just in the development stage, but it's setting the table for how YouTube and the CFL can work together so that the world's biggest video platforms, particularly here in Canada, are going to more support CFL content. And besides all of that, highlights and short form storytelling, all part of YouTube. They will also have the ability to work with DAZN and work with Bell Media and have rights to simulcast some content that they are doing. So all of those conversations are to come. But really, what we've said is YouTube wants to be a part of the CFL family, and we're thrilled to have them aboard.
For those preseason games on YouTube starting in 2027 specifically, will they look similar to what's been on CFL Plus, or might they have a different look or be broadcast in a different way?
I think we're still working on those plans. The starting point is the base of what you see today. But we do know that in our conversations with YouTube, I think there's some things that they're going to add to that. And we'll let that play out and work on that right through till start of season next year.
From talking to you really ever since you got into office and then understanding that, you went down to the Canadian Football League Players Association's annual general meeting in Niagara. I think you drove yourself there. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yep.
You drove yourself down there to be present, which I don't think has been done recently by a commissioner, to understand how they go about their process. That was specifically about the new playoff format. But when you look at the collective bargaining agreement, there is an opt out clause in there, Stuart, December 31st, 2026. Do you foresee the two sides coming together and continuing forward with the current collective bargaining agreement, or might it be put to use by either side?
No, that opt-out clause is related to a change to the current meeting deal, which has not happened. Our current deal will expire at the end of 26 as is, and then we will start up in 27. I'm looking forward to operating under the CBA with the players and growing this game together.
And that current CBA does run through 2029, so there's some, labor agreement there. It's a little premature, but would you like to try to extend that out prematurely further with the Players Association?
Well, I think it's too early for us to have those types of thoughts or discussions, Justin. So we're gonna, we've developed a great relationship with the players, particularly in the last year. I certainly feel like going down to that AGM and speaking with the executive and speaking with their leadership, I've been very pleased with how we've been able to work together and understand how we're trying to grow this game together for the benefit of everyone. And so I want to continue to see that progress, and then we'll see where it goes from a CDA perspective.
Stuart, you know this very well that even when some of the simulcast games were on CTV from TSN, that there were some people that thought that it was difficult to figure that out or to get them transitioned over. I honestly think overall this broadcast media rights deal is great. It gives you the opportunity to potentially reach a younger audience. So I guess the older fans in the Canadian Football League hardcore fan base, what would you say to them about, now having to subscribe to TSN, but also potentially DAZN?
I cannot wait for our fans to see what DAZN can deliver. It is just simply an outstanding platform, and they are distributed on every single device. So access is not going to be a problem. Consistency of schedule is not going to be a problem, and they're just going to bring some cool stuff to the table that's going to be different than what we've seen before. Bell, I think production at Bell is world class, and I cannot wait to see how these voices and this level of storytelling is going to play out with the zone. I'm just so excited by it.
You've been around broadcast a long time, Stuart. How do you envision DAZN's Saturday Night Football package looking and feeling different, with no disrespect to TSN or Bell Media, than what we've seen on TSN and RDS over the last number of years?
Well, I'm looking forward to finding out myself. The one thing we know is there will be a slate of new voices, and however they are choosing to editorialize or portray those voices and those that new talent, it's just going to be more voices talking about the CFL. And how can that not be anything but good? We're going to have just whatever perspective they're bringing. We're going to see how they apply all that incredible technology to their storytelling. And we have a consistent day and time where everyone's going to go to find it. So we'll see. We're here to collaborate with the zone, but they have a ton of experience in producing live events, and they've got a pretty good idea on what works.
I'll get you out on this, Stuart. You had been at Bell Media / TSN for a long time. How was TSN in terms of being comfortable with another partner coming in, DAZN, for the live game broadcast?
And well, I'm not going to speak for TSN on that subject. What I will say is our conversations with TSN, with RDS, who retains their entire French package, and Bell Media in general, were just so positive. They were so understanding of what each party was trying to achieve. And I think they are, what I know is, what I can speak to is they are thrilled with their package. They are thrilled to be the home of the Grey Cup for the next 7 years, including this year. And they feel like that, they are in a great place when it comes to CFL and CFL storytelling.
Thank you for the time, Stuart. We really appreciate it.
Hey, Justin, my pleasure.